So we're going to continue the conversation of how we can engage educators in developing and creating and sharing out open education resources with a recent project that we finished up earlier this month, actually late last month, as part of our DRAW initiative in developing a digital skills glossary. So I'm going to try to engage folks throughout this 20 minutes to just kind of understand why we developed a glossary and why we feel using language and vocabulary when teaching digital skills is really critical to building something called digital resilience, which is what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to kick it off with a question of the day. This is easy because we're all at computers, and so you all have the ability through the tools at your disposal to answer this question that I'm guessing most people do not know off the cuff. So what key event in communication occurred 147 years ago on this day? All right, so we're getting there. So here is a drawing or a hint that gets at the answer, but the picture is of Alexander Graham Bell's notebook. This is a notebook entry from March 10th, where he describes the first successful experiment with the telephone. And so this is a question, or any type of question, that you could ask students on any given day. And I'm going to follow up with some questions that look at digital skills vocabulary. So for those of you who did find the answer, how did you find the answer? Go ahead in the chat. How'd you find the answer? You telegraphed a friend. All right, Kathy jumped ahead. Google app on my phone. Awesome. Yeah. So what type of application is Google? That's not cheating. Google is not cheating. It's a search engine, or it's a web browser, actually. So what web browser did you actually use? So Firefox, we see Chrome, we see Chrome. Lots of people use Chrome, right? So Google's a search engine, and it's accessed on a web browser, and many people used Google Chrome. Some people use Firefox. Didn't see any Safari in there. And someone uses the iPhone, Google app on their iPhone. What search terms or keywords did you use 147 years ago today? Type the whole question. So we have natural language ability to answer questions. So before, if you remember, you had to do Boolean searches, but now you can actually enter in things that are pretty more natural language. On what website did you find the answer? The AT&T website. That's pretty cool. My stuff came from, I think it was the Smithsonian. Oh, that's interesting that it's an AT&T website that had the answer. Oh, that makes sense because AT&T is sort of a phone company. And how do you know it's a valid source? That's great. I looked this up a few days ago, so they obviously didn't have that. So I think, it's AT&T. So they're pretty valid source, I think. But these are all questions that you could ask students when asking them any question that you have them go and search for an answer. And in doing so, we're using some key digital skills vocabulary in the process to help students develop the mindset that I can find the answer to anything online. And so this is an example of how we can use vocabulary to build digital resilience. So just because of time, and I want to make sure we get through and get to dive into the glossary, the Digital Skills Glossary was built because of the need to have more resources available for building digital resilience. And it's part of a broader project called the Digital Resilience in the American Workforce Project. And we define digital resilience as what you can see here: the awareness, skills, agility, and confidence to be empowered users of new technologies and adapt to changing digital skill demands. So it improves one's capacity to problem solve and upskill, navigate digital transformations, and be active participants in society and the economy. So knowing that you can find information that you can problem solve with the tools available to you is an example of digital resilience. And so a lot of the work that we've seen in the field revolves around digital skills, and rightfully so. There are foundational skills that one needs in order to know how to access a web browser, how to open the Google application on their phone, how to enter in search terms into their web browser. But how do we transition that to digital resilience, that definition that I had in the previous screen? And so through the DRAW project, we've had actually two engagements with adult educators through our EdTech Makerspace, where makers have come together to develop resources to support both digital skills development through something called the Digital Skills Library, and now most recently, digital resilience through a glossary and set of activities that help teachers have ideas for taking key digital skills terminology and turning that into digital resilience activities. So as part of both of these projects, we've used an underlying digital skills framework called the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative Framework. And there are 10 domains and 74 skills within those domains that define the digital skills that people need in order to be engaged as members of society through the digital tools that we all must know how to use and adapt to in today's economy, in today's education system, in today's civic engagement. So these are the 10 domains that are part of that. And so in developing digital resilience, you have to work backwards to defining what are the skills that learners are developing through an activity such as what we just did. So I want you to think about what we did just do. We did a question of the day. That could be an activity that you do on a regular basis. We use terms such as what search terms did you use? What is a web browser? Mobile applications. So in the chat, I'm asking if you could provide a description of what would you call the digital skills that learners are developing or applying when doing something like answering a question of the day. So in the chat, what skills did that activity develop? Opening your browser, opening a new tab, potentially. What other skills? Entering a search term or question into the search window. So we have opening the browser, we have opening a new tab, entering a search term, typing, again, getting into some of those foundational skills. Any others that you can think of? Knowing what browser even means. That's great. So knowing what that application is and what it is that you can do with it. Again, knowing the fact that you have access to a tool, often in your hand, that you can use to find any information that you want. Knowing what a browser means, knowing that Google is not a source, it's a vehicle for getting to information. And evaluating the search results. Great, awesome. So from that digital skills library that I mentioned in that Seattle framework, these are 4 skills that I would say that activity developed. These are actually defined skills in our library where you can find learning resources that can help support the development of these skills. So searching the internet, evaluating online information, using search strategies. I'm always interested when I run an activity like this to see what people enter in as search terms, because different people have different strategies for getting to the information that they want online. And then understanding your search results. So a lot of times when you do an internet search, you can see that in Google, it'll indicate if something is an advertisement. Knowing what that means and what that entails in terms of the information that you're seeing and why it is being presented at the top of your results. So the Digital Skills Library, and if one of my colleagues could actually chat the Digital Skills Library link in the chat, that would be great, because you can certainly explore as I'm talking. But the goal behind that library was to take a skill like using search strategies, and through the work that our participants in the makerspace did, they aggregated resources from a bunch of different websites that align to these skills. So now in our library, if you go and search for use search strategies or enter in the skill IS.5, you can see that there's a whole video course on understanding and navigating online information. That GCF Learn Free has an entire tutorial focused on internet basics that includes how to use search engines and videos such as search strategies that you might employ. And digitallearn.org, which is from the Public Library Association, has e-modules that are both in many cases in English and in Spanish that, again, in this case, look at understanding how to conduct an internet search, what a basic search entails, understanding ads in search results. And again, as you can see, these are in English and in Spanish. So that was a project that we completed a while ago. And now, in addition to all of those resources that existed before, we have a bunch of new resources that have been developed as part of our digital skills glossary. So the digital skills glossary makerspace took place in January and February of this year. We had about 40 plus teachers who engaged in this makerspace, and they developed a glossary of over 300 digital skills terms. It is in the form of slides. We'll look at it in a second. It's in the form of an instructor guide with activities, as well as a Google Sheet index of all 300 terms with the definitions and the source of those definitions. And this content is all completely openly licensed. What's great about the way this was developed is all of these things are available as is so that you can make copies of them, or because we used Google Sheets and Google Slides and Google Docs, all of them can be either added to your drive if you are a Google user, and then you can adapt them in whatever way you see fit, or you can download them as a PDF, or if you are a Microsoft person, you can download them as PowerPoints as well. So we did that intentionally to allow you maximum flexibility in how you wish to use it and how you wish to adapt it. Because as Rachel said at the beginning, one of the things that makes a resource truly open is the ability for others to take it and to adapt it. So I'm going to hop in now to the digital skills glossary, but really quickly, just so you know, we'll see this in a second. There's an instructor guide, there's a glossary index, there are vocabulary slides, and those slides are both in alphabetical order, so you can search and find the term that you want, or thematically. So let's hop in now and take a look at that. And I will share in the chat if someone already hasn't. Here is the actual glossary link. And now I'm going to hop out over into that. So this is actually a tab in the full digital skills library. So if you click on home, this is the digital skills library that I mentioned earlier. This has over 1,800 activities organized into these 10 domains. And then now we have this edition of the digital skills glossary. And here's the exact same thing that you just saw on the slide that I shared. So I'll actually start with the glossary index just so you can see what is in there. So this is the list of all 300, I think it's 304 words, if I'm not mistaken, 307 words from A to Z. And so this just provides you with the ability to see everything in one place in terms of all the words, all the definitions. These are open definitions, and you can see the source of the different definitions. They are all either licensed as public domain, which is what CC0 means, or you can see the various Creative Commons licenses for them, as well as the crediting information for where the definition came from. And then you can also see what theme each of them is part of. So this is there for you so that if you just want to grab things and you say you download this and you want to see just the things that are about design or about the mouse or about email, you can do so. What's really nice then is you can grab, if you filter down to say a particular theme and copy paste, and say you wanted to create Quizlet slides using those terms and definitions. Because we put this in this format of word and definition, it's really easy for you to download that and then import it into Quizlet and immediately have those flashcards. Or if you wanted to create a flippity, which involves taking a spreadsheet and designing different activities with it, you can. So there's an intention behind the way in which this glossary is provided in terms of this index. The second thing I'm going to show are the glossary slides. And so here I'm going to click to see the A to Z slides. Because I'm the owner, or this account that we're in is the owner of the slides, I actually have the ability to edit them. You do not. But as with any Google product, as noted, you can go to File and you can make a copy. If you're a Google user, this will copy the presentation into your own drive, so it's your own to adapt as you see fit, or you can download it as PowerPoint or as a PDF. So once you do that, you have the ability to go to any of these slides, cut, paste, however you want to work with them to build your own slide deck. So say you wanted to select just a handful of terms that are relevant to what you are doing with your students, you can do so. All of the images are licensed, open, and you can see within the notes for all slides where the images came from, as well as the definition. So we really worked with the participants in this project to understand licensing and content use, to make sure that they understand the do's and don'ts, as well as making sure to provide sourcing information, because we're not being truly open if we're taking stuff and then not giving credit to where those things came from. But as you can see within the slide, there's a definition. There is a use of the word in a sentence, and then there's images that support that definition. And you'll also see this microphone. And this actually is a tool that I learned about from one of the courses that we run on designing reusable activities. And a teacher developed a tool where students were creating their own glossaries. But she led me to this great thing from Google that is a pronunciation tool. So for all of the terms in the glossary, if you click on this microphone icon, it's going to bring you to Google's pronunciation term. And you can click on this widget and you can hear the person say it. You can have them go more slowly. I know you can't probably hear that. You can see the mouth and how the mouth is shaped to make these sounds. And then you can actually practice. I have to give permission. Alignment. So I did a good job. So learners can actually get feedback on saying the words that they're pronouncing. And so these slides, there's one slide for all of the terms in the definition. And again, this version is in alphabetical order, but the slides are also thematically organized. And so when they're in the thematic version, you can basically use this as, again, you see fit. You can make a copy, you can do what you wish with it. But what's nice about this is if I go to the slideshow view, I can click on this next slide, and these all hop to thematically organized sets of words across these 14 different topic areas. So if I went to say navigation, it's going to bring me to this navigation page, and then I can see actually what the terms are in this particular theme. It actually gives credit to the makers who created all of these slides, or I can go back to the main page. What's really nice about this as well is you could download this as a PDF, and then the PDF is navigable. So all of those clicks that I just did would work in that PDF, meaning you could actually use it as an offline resource. And so students would not need to be online in order to navigate through the glossary. The one thing that would be missing is that pronunciation tool, because that is an online resource. But what's most exciting to me about this is the instructor guide, because in addition to creating these slides, and I know I only have about 2 more minutes, we have this fabulous instructor guide that all of you have access to. And again, in the same way that Google Slides work, you could download this as a PDF. You can make a copy to your Google Drive, or you could download it as Microsoft Word. And I'm just going to show you this really quick menu here. This pops out, and it allows you to jump to any of those topic areas that you see. But makers, as part of this project, developed digital resilience activities. I don't even know where I am anymore. Here we go. I think I hopped over. Here we go. So makers worked in these teams. Sorry, all of my menus are suddenly in my way. To develop these activities that deal with the terminology within those themes. And all of these themes connect to those Seattle Digital Equity Initiative skills. So one of the pages in section 3 of the glossary indicates which skills each of these themes lend themselves to. And then the teachers that participated in this project designed activities that build digital resilience. And to do so, they used these strategies. So building visual recognition. So things like recognizing common icons for things like minimize, maximize, open, close, saving, building language around the actual terms that we use and understanding what those mean, recognizing features that are common across different applications, or the use of different types of technologies in different contexts. And we'll look at a couple of those activities now, as well as just the general playing in the sandbox and experimenting with new tools. If students know how to perform a certain task in one application, having them try a similar application and see if they can find where they perform those same tasks in a new application. Again, all of these helping build digital resilience. So looking back to my question of the day, here is one of the activities that's in the guide, and it is to build language, to understand those terms. And so there's a title, here are the skills, I am the contributor, here are the terms, so the slides that you could use to teach this activity, and then the activity description. And so another activity in the guide developed by one of the makers, this actually looks at specifically domain extensions. So evaluating online information, understanding where it came from. Here's an activity that someone developed that looks at that visual recognition. So it was actually a maker who was teaching his students how to use a new learning management system. And so he designed with me this activity that instead of just doing the how-tos, looked at what are you doing when you're in this learning management system. You are expanding and contracting menus. And these are symbols that you see in various different applications. I actually found this really great article today. It was a study done by Nielsen on which of these opening icons is most effective or most recognized by people. So these are all different ways that you can open different menus. And then also looking at, again, these cross-platform tools. So social media, this group developed an activity that looks at the different uses of social media for professional, for friends, for sharing information out. And then this activity actually dealt with what are the common features across different social media platforms.